Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as on Amazon. I have one announcement. Please notify your Attorney General in your state regarding solar panels made by Sonova Generac Systems. If you are having any difficulty with this company, fill out the complaint form in your state for your Attorney General. Now I have a return guest. I'm very happy to have Marc Fishman on. He was last on December 19th, 2024, Season 5, Episode 202, where we talked about the word no is unacceptable. And we were talking earlier, and we're going to talk about kids over 21. And what does that mean in the child support realm? Welcome.
Thank you, Maryann. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your advocacy for so many parents who are dealing with the trials and tribulations of family court and divorce court. Love being here, and happy to spend time and try and share our journeys and give people insight and advice, and how to I guess use some new tools and new laws and disclosures to their advantage, and address some of the new items out there, like you said. Child support in New York for those disabled children with intellectual disabilities over 21 now.
We were talking also that it could be 26 even.
Yes. So Governor Hochul signed a law in New York about 4 years ago, 4 years ago. And basically it says that if the child is intellectually disabled, without really defining that, so that can be Down syndrome to, let's say, different mental disabilities. If they're living with the custodial parent, and if the care is provided by the custodial parent, that child support continues, or in the case if the kid is already emancipated at 21, the custodial parent can apply for child support for the disabled child after 21. So, this raises a lot of challenges and points. I'm disabled. I'm all for supporting disabled children, and I'm all for fair and due process. But I guess what we were alluding to earlier is what is the process? Many of these magistrates and judges are not trained on what is a disability. Mm-hmm. The law further states that, again, they could apply for child support, receive child support from the non-custodial parent if they're not receiving services from the state or federal government. So again, what does that mean? Some of them get Social Security, enhanced Social Security. Some of them get Social Security disability. Some of them get free, aids or care from the state. Others get free prescription drugs. You want the disabled children to be obviously a roof over their head and be well taken care of. But I'm not so sure, and I want to get your take, that keeping it in the family court world with judges and magistrates that don't understand the definition of disability is the appropriate forum for airing out, let's support disabled children after 21.
I don't think the magistrates should be handling this. There should be proof that the child is disabled, because some parents have, I know of some parents that have lied saying their child was disabled with a learning disability and still 21, and the dad found out about it. The kid was not disabled, had to go to domestic relations and have it turned off. So there's games people play. I don't know. And you're saying the magistrates aren't trained in these child support matters or ADA rights, anything like that. This is very frustrating. I don't think the family court is good for anything.
No, I agree with you. It's very troubling. We're all for supporting disabled children and disabled adolescents. And we're all for supporting kids and adults as long as they need it. Is this the correct form?
Right.
I mean, number one, as you alluded to, family court is dysfunctional and takes too long. So if the disabled child or adolescent needs disabled funds, they should not have to wait a year, 2 months, 3 months, evidentiary hearing 6 months. And you're right. Since there's no disability part in New York, like there's Veterans Court, or
Hmm.
there's Taxi Court, or there's Parking Court. There's no disability court. I would implore the governor in New York to say, okay, there should at least be one disability trained family court judge and/or magistrate to handle post 21 disability matters. Like you said, answering the appropriate questions. The IEPs, which are the individual education plans, typically end when they leave high school, which is typically 18, 19, right? You really don't see kids past 20 in high school, even if they're left back.
Right.
19 seems to be the max. But like you're saying, how can we accommodate these necessary parties in society? 1 out of 4 is disabled, without destroying parents and giving them another 5 years of the devil's haven called family court. It seems to me there could have been a better mechanism here, better form.
Well, definitely. When we were talking earlier, they're getting Social Security disability, free aid, prescriptions. It's almost triple dipping when you add in the child support, the Title 4D funding, and everything that goes along with that.
Correct. And then you also have to deal with in New York, where they typically do a separate add-on for childcare or babysitter while the custodial parent is working. So, it's unclear in the law. Are they going to continue a babysitter? Or is that services from the state? I don't know. Do you?
No.
And that's been quite challenging. So I guess some of the concerns is that that there should be like you said, a standard form. Like parents are asked to bring in their taxes at W-2. Whoever is the caretaker for the child maybe should not only put together documents, but maybe there should be, say, an American with Disabilities Advocate, or a member of ARC or the Disability Rights Protection Advocacy Organization for the state, to fill out a form saying, what services they get, who pays for them, what they need, and what could be applied for at no cost versus what could be provided free. But to have a family court battle over a disabled child would certainly, I think, be detrimental to the child. And again, my primary concern would be, timeliness. If someone needs care, some of these family court petitions, okay, well, we heard your hearing to modify. We'll have that in 8 months. 8 months? Disabled care doesn't wait for 8 months. Let's be honest here, But I have not seen a case law, because I guess the law is very new. I think it was passed in 21 when a 2022 effective date. Basically, that was the tail end of COVID. So, our appellate courts in New York were always backed up more than everywhere else in the country. So, waiting 2, 3, 4 years for appellate decisions to see if anyone has addressed this at a higher court level, I mean, it's quite limited. But, certainly if you are a parent of a disabled child and your ex-spouse or boyfriend or ex-husband, ex-partner is not paying needed costs for a disabled adolescent over 21, absolutely go in a family court and make a filing to request a hearing for those funds and services. I don't know if it's a different form. I would imagine, Maryann, over 21, you certainly can't say dependent child, right? You couldn't say baby, right? So
Right.
it'd probably be disabled adult. What would you think?
Disabled adult. That's what I think. See, over here in Pennsylvania, if there was an issue, you'd go down to the child support office, domestic relations, where they impute your income at a higher level. Yeah. So that would be handled there. And usually the other party refuses to give up their W-2s, 1099s, or 1044s.
Sure.
Then you go to a de novo hearing because you'd have to say, hey, I'm not happy with this decision with this conference officer. So now I'm applying for a de novo hearing. And de novo in Latin, if anybody doesn't know, it's a new beginning, but it's really a new beginning of hell.
You're right about that. And I suspect that some of these proceedings seeking care for disabled adults are probably lengthy, which is probably why we haven't seen anything in the pipeline appeals wise. certainly in our four appeals courts, the first to the fourth department, um, the first in serves Bronx and Manhattan in New York. The second serves all of Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and Westchester, Rockland, and the third and fourth are upstate. So, I agree with you. It's like if you're adding more to the family court world without adding more staff or more education, it's certainly going to be problematic. I don't know if it's going to necessarily fit within the goals. And what parent is not going to support a disabled child with Down syndrome or mental issues? I mean, why bring that to the family court? Why think someone's not going to have a conscience? And when I was discussing this actually with one parent going through a hearing who allowed me to attend the hearing earlier this week, I was just shocked that the magistrate didn't address the disability at all. He's like, okay, you want a modification, you want a higher payment. Okay, my earliest date is June 11th. And I'm saying to myself, magistrate, it's January now. You're a disabled kid. What do you mean your earliest hearing is June 11th? That means even if you have a hearing June 11th, you're not going to make a decision because you're going to reserve it till September, and then it might not get into effect till October. If you have a disabled adult needing services, that doesn't meet the criteria. But in defense of them, they're already booked through June. There's not enough of them, right? And there's not enough of these so-called facilities. But the other point you raised is abuse. It's ripe for abuse. Okay, my child's in a center all week, and he or she gets services there. Okay, so now why do you need child support? And then okay, well, you got to prove what the center provides them, and if it's living or not, that. And then what? You want to fight over who has kids over the weekends? This is an adult child. You got to fight over for a weekend. This is just ridiculous. Why do we put this back in the family court world? Why do we take it out? And over there, it seems like you said it's ripe for abuse, and what does that all mean?
I think they would still want to extract as much money as they can for as long as they can with this Title 4D funding out of the non-custodial parent.
You're totally right, and look at it this way, which is also abuse. As you're aware, in New York, you cannot deduct child support off your income taxes, right? You can deduct medical care. You can certainly deduct disabled medical care. Disabled medical care is typically more than the standard deduction. So now you get a fight over who gets to deduct it. Because it's now child support, you can't deduct it. Now it's interesting in the New York law, Maryann, which again we haven't explored. It says it can be payable to a trust. I never see child support payable to a trust. Have you?
No, never.
But they said for the disabled children, it can be payable to a trust. So, in my mind, well, that could be good because maybe you can appoint a trustee that the court can agree on. Could be someone who is experienced with disability care and experienced with services, and get the adult child the services they need, right? As well as be fair to the parents, as well as if there's a guardian or something of that nature. So if we're setting up to a trust, then certainly we don't have to deal with support collections. I'm not aware of New York child support collection paying support to a trust. Are you? I haven't heard of that one.
No. And then I know you brought up the trustee. What if you're dealing with a personality disorder that doesn't want the trustee because they want that money coming in? They don't want anything jeopardizing that money coming in.
It's a tremendous problem because then you also said, if you're dealing with a difficult parent on the other end, how do you know they're taking that support and actually paying it for the medical and for the disability expenses? Like give you an idea, New York, there's no standard for child support. If you are the non-custodial spouse, you pay the custodial spouse child support, and you're not entitled to any accounting of what they use the child support funds for. Now, I would say, wait a second. Okay, that's New York's law. A lot of us disagree with it. But now if you're imputing that to a disabled adult over 21, no. If that adolescent is getting care, the care has to be paid for. So it almost is sort of insistent, let's get a trust or a trustee, and the payments go directly. Okay, if it's $400 a week for the aid, $200 for prescriptions, $50 for bus fare, I don't know, $100 for accessoride or paratransit, right? I mean, should we even fight with this? I mean, it almost seems like, in my mind, the trust should almost be automatic if it's over 21. This way you say, well, look, neither parent gets the money,
Right. Well, because they're getting, correct me if I'm wrong, but Social Security would kick in if they're disabled adult?
It depends.
Mm.
So, for example, my son has a condition called LCH. That is Langerhans cell histiocytosis X. It is a form of cancer. He is in remission. He had one instance growing up and never had more, thank God. But those with that title are entitled to enhanced Social Security benefits as well as immediate, meaning because he has that condition, he doesn't have to go through all the review of a disabled person with other conditions. It's on the expedited list. And some adolescents and kids get a lot of spots on his body, get a lot of marks, and there's lots of learning disability issues. In his case, he had one instance on a leg. And quite
Mm.
frankly, if we didn't have it biopsied at Columbia University, probably wouldn't even had the name of the condition. So yeah, some of them are enhanced so that, oh, you have that condition, yeah, you immediately fall in. But like you're saying, well, he's functional, so does he work? Does he have an aide in school? Who pays for the aide? Is he attending college and having room board? I don't know. I'm still trying to get information, but certainly my adult child is now 19. I haven't hit the 21 threshold yet, but I'm sure in 2 years, hopefully a lot of this will be clarified. You know,
It needs to be clarified because all this triple dipping can't go on. It's that's total abuse and corruption.
right? And then you deal with the ultimate abuse, Maryann, which sort of falls in like why I'm here on your pod show today is you have a parent who is the parent who claims he's not disabled. Oh, so wait a second. We've now battled on my son being disabled with his IEPs, with his aid, with his special needs, with his special bus, special transportation, with the enhanced help, and you have told the family court now for over, let's see, over 13 years, Maryann, he's not disabled. Oh, but in 2 years you want to file for disability child support? Uh-huh. That'll be very interesting if it's the same parties that heard you say for 12 years, 13 years, he's not disabled. This will be very interesting. So now, what is your standard? And if I lost family court and appeals on the basis that my child wasn't disabled, meaning I paid for extra care and wanted to split it in our formula, which was 54-46, and get reimbursed, the court said, well, we don't consider a medical expense because he's not disabled. Are you a doctor? The doctor prescribed it, paid for the course of treatment or the therapy or the service. No, Mr. Fishman, he's not disabled. You can appeal it to the appellate division. The appellate division, oh, of course he's not disabled. Wait a second. He's on the Social Security expedited list of condition. He has an IEP. He has all these other services, push in, pull outs. He's not disabled. So you're saying the services I paid for to better my child, to protect my child, educate my child, aren't reimbursable because you are fictitious doctor magistrate and nurse family court or professor biology family court judge. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
a science degree? Do you have a medical degree? No. We just hate you, Fishman. So we're not giving you any reimbursement. Tough.
This is why I want family court abolished. It has to, because if you were in civil court, you could show all this information that you have and what was said in that for 13 years, what was going on. And if you wanted to request a jury, then you could do that. Or if you didn't want to, you didn't have to. But at least you'd have a chance of having some type of justice.
It's true. What you said, it would be great if, a lot of these things were resolved either out of court or those that are so litigious get a jury. But think about it, Maryann. How is family court going to possibly, I guess, become, in my case, the ultimate hypocritical family court? To tell me in less than 2 years, if my ex applies for child support after 21, then he has an intellectual disability, which he does. I don't know if it's on the form or not. I don't know what services he specifically needs because I haven't been shown his paperwork since he was 18.
Mhm.
Trying to get it. But my point is, wait a second. If you're saying he's disabled now, does that mean is this grounds for reversing your decisions in the family court and the appeals court that he wasn't disabled going back 12 years and now saying that, well, all those cases I lost, am I going to get reimbursed the legal fees? Am I going to get reimbursed the medical expenses I paid for him? I mean, regardless, he's my son, so I'm glad I provide the extra services. But as you and I have discussed, Maryann, a lot, this also brought in the controversy of supervised visitation.
Hmm.
I insisted on a disability aid for me and my disabled son. I'd have 4 kids. They required that I have a supervisor. I had medical documentation that my son was on the autistic spectrum, and I would have an aide or assistant or relative come regardless, even before I had supervised visitation, which is talking about like 2016, before going back to 12, when I had unsupervised, I would bring help. There's 4 kids.
Hmm.
And my autistic son requires a lot of attention, and I want to give him attention, even if my time with him is limited.
Hmm.
Just like you want to give attention to yours. And then to be shot down, no, you can't have an aide because it proves you can't parent successfully because you need help. Excuse me? That is the most absurd anecdote, right, Maryann? You
Right,
ask for help shows you are a responsible parent.
right.
I want help because I want to make sure my kid is attended to.
Plus, they're going into a building that they aren't used to. I mean, and they're going to see the parent, and it's going to be uncomfortable. These
Oh,
supervised visits are not all that pleasant. They don't let you take pictures of the kids, so you can show the grandma or grandpa.
I agree. You bring back memories.
I'm
So
sorry.
so
Oh,
so you bring back so back in 17, I had supervised visits at a center. It was actually at the Y in Westchester, and they did not let my aide come in. And I got injured twice. Um, I pulled a hernia, and the incision didn't heal for like 6 months. And also, I got a parotid mass on my head because there were some things that I was allergic to, and generally just very weak with what I think 4 or 5 year olds and my autistic son, and having to run around with people with clipboards wouldn't help. So basically, after that, we had a customized supervised visitation program, meaning I would have a traveling supervisor.
mhm.
So we'd meet kids. They have special events. My daughter was in track. My son was in hockey. My other sons were doing sports. So we would customize. I'd pick them up with the aid. I wouldn't be allowed to drive with my disability aid and my supervisor. So we had customized. So literally, it wasn't even programmed, because, quite frankly, you couldn't have someone injured at a center, and basically those of us with traumatic brain injury like myself, we're learning about the symptoms. 2020's hindsight, but one of the conditions, Maryann, was called neurofatigue, where suddenly you just feel tired, and it doesn't matter what you ate or drank, and so to have the aid there as backup, particularly for
Mhm.
an autistic child, what are you talking about? You're going to judge me, and or after I left these visits, why I was so exhausted for 3 days, you know, the longer we survive TBI, the less this happens. But like you're saying, in my case, literally, was to bring an aid because it wasn't necessarily a controlled environment. Um, and you wanted, again, the kid to be attended to. My autistic son asks for attention all the time, and he should get it, regardless of what they want to label me as.
Mhm. They don't care about people. They just don't. I don't know what to say sometimes because the ADA accommodations, the judge can say, well, no, they can't have ADA accommodations. That ADA advocate is not allowed in. Like my ADA advocate wasn't allowed to go into a child support conference with me when I'm going to get bullied by 3 people.
Isn't it amazing? So the way you go about that, Marion, to win that victory is actually the reverse tactic, because I've been attacked that way. So the reverse tactic is let's assume that you have a supervised visitation order, and you have to hire a supervisor, right?
Mhm.
And as you said, the court often has immunity, even though in New York State the court gets funds from the Department of Justice, from the Office of Women for supervised visitation. New York State actually gets $2 million a year. I'll show you the grants, which means if they get funds under Section 504, they can't discriminate. You
Right.
cannot discriminate, which means if someone needs an aid, you let the aid in. But you're right, and I agree. Swimming upstream, as those of us have done, suing judges in federal court, it's quite arduous, lengthy, and I'd rather bang my head against the wall. So what you do is is you file the request with the supervisor or the supervision agency that you need an aid. Or in this case, you file it with the county. Like in the county, the Y that had the supervised visitation in person was funded by the county. Well, the county liaison I know very well. He's like, of course you can have your aid. What do you mean if they won't let the aid in? They'll let the aid in or I'll shut them down. Well, he did shut him down in my case, that you can't let Fishman's aid in, then Fishman is going to get a customized supervised visitation program, and I will personally sign for his aid to get county funds for it. That's when I got, a different supervisor who basically said, of course I'll let you have an aid. And then when the judge said, well, I won't let you have that supervisor because she's required to get, she's allowing you to get aid, or she's specifying you need aid, so we can't use her. Then I get a letter from the DOJ and from Disability Rights New York and from the Brain Injury Association saying you are discriminating if the service provider, who definitely receives federal funds, because a lot of these service providers do supervised visitation for welfare parents and those who don't have money, if they are insisting that they need a supervisor, can't take the job, but you hate Fishman so much that you don't want to let him have a supervisor that they're saying he needs, then obviously we're going to need to take action and sue you and sue the court system. Oh, your aid is approved, Maryann. Oh, wow, magnificent. Drop the balloons. Let's have popcorn. But we hate you more, Fishman, so we'll get you next time. Get me what? I want help for my child. I have an implant on the left and the right. I mean, what? So you look at it from the other end, and then if they bring in a supervisor, like in my case, what they did was, after I posted, okay, Fishman, screw you. We're going to go from $33 an hour, then we're going to 50. Then we're going to 150, then we're going to 250. After people were at 150 and 250, I wrote them. I said, here is my aid. Here is my medical diagnosis. Here's the DOJ opinion. Here's the opinion from the county. You take county funds. You need to allow my aid. And by the way, you need to charge me the $37, Maryann, because since you take county funds, you can't charge more than the government rate. Oh, we don't have time for you, Fishman. Oh, we're too busy. Oh,
You caught him.
the assignment. Oh, I forgot I'm busy for the next 4 years. Oh, thank you. Oh, then the judge hates you even more.
Right.
So you know what? As you're saying, you know what? Two can play this game. I call it the revolving mirror, because what you do to me, I turn the mirror around. Okay, your $250 supervisor just said they can't do it. They had all this time at $250, but when they were told that they could only charge me $37.50, they got no time for me. Then the judge says, "Oh, Fishman, it's your fault. You're not seeing your kids." Excuse me, Your Honor. I FedExed the check for the $1,000 retainer that they decided not to cash at $37 an hour. I had it messengered. I had my aide drive it over, my driver over there. And so, like you're saying, Maryann, you're very smart, and those of us love you in the community. Follow the money. If they're getting federal funds, you can't discriminate. If the court is saying you can't have customized visitation or aid, you go after the supervisor, and you have the supervisor in the beginning say, you know what, I want you to have an aid. And most of them write letters to the court saying, you know what, I want Fishman to have an aid. Obviously, I'll meet his aid or her aid. Obviously, I need to feel comfortable with them. And obviously, I want to see they don't have a criminal background and that in his case, they can drive. And, but I'm not going to deny an aid. Now, if they want to go and deny an aid, I have 4 kids. Look, you know what? Just like they threw me and they threw you in jail for disability advocacy or impairments we have, you know what? They lose federal funding. You lose federal funding as a contractor for the government. You're not going to be doing supervision for anyone, period.
Right. But they still continue to go on and on with this. And that's why well, you know me, I'll drone on about dismantling family court. You know, there's too much double dipping, triple dipping, too much lying going on.
Absolutely. There's a better way. And hopefully with this president, and the new law, I don't know if you saw Senator Kennedy sponsored law of Louisiana, reinforcing parental rights. I hope it gets attention. I hope it is put on the front page. I hope it is talked about because, like you're saying, these judges and these magistrates and some of the family court staff are so used to railroading people, and then threatening you with jail. Okay, threatening me with jail. Okay, yeah, I've heard that already. Okay, those of us just it goes in one ear out the other. Like you, I haven't seen my kids. It's going on 1,503 days. It hurts, but I'm making progress in federal court and certainly helping others to prevent their loss of kids by helping them continue to see their kids either supervised or unsupervised. and help others to not fall in the traps that they made for the rest of us, you know?
Right. Well, with me, because I was so dangerous, the judge made my mother, who was in her 70s, and the ex's father be the supervisors. And it was really weird because he made the ex's father go get the kids and bring them to my house where this everyone would visit for a couple hours. And it to make older people do this, I mean, I'm telling you, older people, okay, not to discriminate, but this is very hard on older people. My
Sure.
mother had a heart condition, which I'm sure all of this shortened her life. And then you look over at the one supervisor, and he's watching TV on the couch, and he fell asleep. So, my boys, they were doing their Xbox or PlayStation, whatever. And I had a really bad migraine. I always get them on the left side of my head. They're a nightmare. So I went into my younger son's room, and he says, "Oh, Mom, watch me play this." It's like, okay, it's very loud. Okay, and here I'm with this migraine, and believe it or not, I fell asleep because I was just in so much pain, and that medication you take for the migraine doesn't help either. And then I open my eyes and I see the grandfather staring at me in the doorway. It's like I'm just here, I'm so dangerous, right?
So sorry you
Yeah,
had to go
it
through
was
that.
weird. It was weird. And then it got to the point where the grandfather said, I'm not doing this anymore. He slammed down his magazine because I had taken my youngest one to the pool, and I told him it's gonna be hot there. You're not gonna like this. We won't stay too long. And he just slammed it all down and said, I'm not doing this. And then I didn't get to see the boys from early June until August 28th.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
And how old were they then?
They were 13, 14, 14 to 15.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, and they also want to humiliate you.
Oh yeah,
The court wants to humiliate you with your relatives, or they want to make it seem that you're deviant or you're lesser than a parent.
right.
Um, and they really don't define, like you said, what is supervised visitation. What does it all mean, and what are you supervising? And a supervised visitation is not the same as disability aid or a helper. And what is this really, like you said, all about?
Mhm.
And why are you jailing good parents that pay, in some cases, up to $500 to see their kids for a couple hours, and then you put them in default for not paying child support the following month and saying, "Well, you chose to see your kid, so that's your fault. You couldn't pay your child support." Well, judge, you didn't use the government program of child supervision. In New York, every county has a funded program, and a lot of those will do virtual or in person. What always amazed me, Maryann, was during virtual court, virtual this, Safe Horizons and three others in New York provided free supervised visitation online, regardless of income. Let me say it again: free online visitation, regardless of income. And Judge Capici, in my case, said, "You're not eligible for that." And I remember going to the congressman and going to my state senator saying, "You can't deny him access to the program. What are you charging him? Oh, well, Fishman has to pay $200 an hour for supervision, or he ain't seeing his kids, and he only gets 1 hour." And they said, "Wait a second, but Safe Horizons is willing to do an hour and a half for free." And they said, "What about Fishman's closed captioning? That's his problem. He can pay Zoom the $200. So he should pay $400 an hour for 1 hour, pay for his own Zoom real-time transcription, which Maryann and I now use free after Zoom made it free a couple of years ago, right? But
Hmm.
for 1 hour, but Safe Horizons will give me closed captioning on Microsoft Teams and their other apparatuses in 1.5 hours, and we can't use them because Marc Fishman is suing you in federal court because you denied him transcription in court, retaliation."
I was
And
just going to say that.
you know, And see, I paid it, Maryann. I paid it. I paid it till they wouldn't let me see my kids. I paid whatever the payments. I remember paying. You'd pay if the kids didn't even show up, and that's what often happened. You'd have a supervisor there, so I'd pay. There were like 18 of them where my kids didn't show up until my act was ordered to bring them to virtual visitation. Right? You think you get a credit? Oh, what's Safe Horizons policy? Oh, if they don't show up, you don't pay. Ridiculous. Retaliation. Oh, you sued the court. Uh-huh. Yeah, I sued the court to get accommodations so I can hear and meaningfully participate, but you punish me because I'm disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Or you punish me because others agree I'm disabled and you're a public accommodation and you're shamed because a federal Second Circuit ordered you on July 16, 21 to provide communication accommodations. You would think that they ordered you to give me your pension, or they ordered you to give me your house, or they ordered you to give me your car. I got communication accommodations and you're offended? You think this is retaliation? You have to punish me financially? You have to give me criminal orders of protection? As you said, it's the family court mafia. It's got to be taken down. It cannot function. There shouldn't be things like retribution or punishment if someone advocates for their civil rights and goes to federal court or goes to New York City Human Rights, New York State Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
Too many parents are getting gag orders. I never had a gag order. I always had a federal lawsuit, always had a federal complaint. The first thing they ask when you file a federal complaint is anyone threatening you that you can't complain. And when the other side got a copy of the complaint, the court administrators, they put on there we want to remind you that XYZ, Mr. Fishman has filed a complaint. You cannot restrict his free speech. But yet, look at moms and dads now. Oh, you can't post online. Oh, you said you don't like your daughter's purple hair or her tattoo, so you can't post it online. You can't talk. What happened to the Constitution? What happened to the First Amendment? Isn't it absurd, Maryann? You're telling me, oh, I'll go to jail if I post on social media. What? Number one, I love my kids like you do. I wouldn't post anything inappropriate. But number two, I have to go to jail because my free speech about my child offends you? My God.
Right. And chances are, we talked about this before, but some of these judges don't even have kids of their own. They don't know what they're doing. And social media and posting pictures, that way the grandparents can see the pictures. It's they are out of control. I've talked to so many moms and dads. This is all out of control, Mark.
It is. And some of us are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So just to update you on a transition to my federal lawsuit. Maryann, I had one of those migraine headaches. I have a simple neuralgia and I have my stimulator that sends electric up to my head. So after I had holiday dinner with Dad, I was surfing online and looking up the cop. I'm suing Lane Schlesinger in federal court. And what comes up? Attorney General pattern police misconduct report, 3-year investigation of now fired former disability discriminating police officer Lane Schlesinger. Attorney General James, 3-year investigation. Whoa! We've been in court now 6 years, Maryann. How come no one told us about this? We have things like discovery. We have certifications. Oh, where has Detective Schlesinger been? Oh, he's been on desk duty. Desk duty? He didn't say that during deposition. Why is he on desk duty? Oh, did you read the complaint? Read the complaint. So we have this new law, Maryann, signed by Cuomo in response to the Floyd riots in Minnesota, unbeknownst to a lot of us. And it took them 4 years to develop. And basically, Attorney General has investigated 406 cops. So let me tell you the criteria for this public pattern police misconduct label and investigation. So the conduct is this. The police chief or boss of the 500 or so law enforcement agencies subject to the state of New York. So you're talking about New Rochelle Police, Scarsdale Police, New York City, right? They have to notify the Attorney General, LEMIU, Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Unit, LEMIU. They have to notify when a police officer or person under their supervision commits 5 or more sustained, misconduct, abuse, or civil rights violations. 5 or more. Let me emphasize. And it's 5 or more, Maryann, within a 2-year period. Okay? And they're to send a letter to the Attorney General with the backup for the 5 instances, right, or more, right? And then the Attorney General launches an investigation. and the investigation is supposed to be disclosed annually. So the law went into effect in 20. We have a misconduct report in 2020, and just talks about that the Attorney General is developing procedures. In 21, she cites 3 names. Again, she's developing procedures and criteria and forms. In 22, you get a little bit more depth. She's investigating 100 cops. 23, they named 3 names saying misconduct. It wasn't until December 24, Maryann, literally last month, where they published their report with 21 pages. You can look at it. Go to the Attorney General website, Attorney General, and look up LEMIU, Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit 2024 report, that she then labels 16 cops throughout the state as pattern police abusing, misconduct, civil rights violating cops. And about 10 of them were in New York City. One was in Troy, a couple in Nassau and Long Island. And my guy, I should say my nemesis, okay, because he's disgraceful, who falsely arrested me during supervised visitation for not going on my ex's property with a visitation order, with a supervisor, and with my disability aid, and with me not driving, and not going on the property, and not talking to my ex for 5 years, okay, is the only cop north of New York City going all the way up to Troy. You're talking about a place with over 1.5 million people, over 400 law officers, over a couple thousand police. The only cop, Maryann, to be labeled pattern, misconduct, abusing, civil rights violating cop. And yet we're in federal court, and the police hide it. They hid it. Now, the police chief's letter, okay, disclosing it, was part of the investigation. And obviously you have the Attorney General letter back. They're supposed to write a letter, the police chief, back to the Attorney General saying what the recourse is. Okay, you have 90 days. So in this case, Schlesinger, now fired Schlesinger. The letter was written to him May 24th of 24, was read to him and to his police chief, saying your charges are sustained, chief. And matter of fact, we found pattern degrading of people, demeaning, misrepresentations. We found instances on his vest camera that differ from his written arrest reports. We found instances of harassment. And most troubling, we found instances of discrimination. Wow. So Schlesinger was forced out last spring. We knew about the forced out because we had followed. We didn't know why. We asked for the letter in FOIL and obviously in federal court for the response from the chief to the AG saying what they're doing. They're saying that's an interagency protected document under FOIL, exempt from FOIL. Well, Marc Fishman, public records are public records, and I'll take you right to federal court. You're not going to give us the public records, and I got nothing to hide. So isn't it amazing, Maryann?
Yeah.
The person who did this to me, okay, was on desk duty since 2022. And if I described the events he did, because I had to give in detail, you would throw up. So one of the events he did, Maryann, because again, it's the Maryann show, we want to give some of the guests some humor, is that Officer Schlesinger was playing John Wayne. I swear to God, you and I must have seen this movie like 15 years ago. He charges Nassau Hospital where his mother's a COVID patient. And he goes in like guns armed. And he says, I'm seeing my mother. What? Your mother's in the isolation unit, sir. She's very ill. We don't allow people to come in to contaminate the air or for you to get sick. I'm seeing my mother no matter what. Step aside. Hand on the gun. What? And he says, I'm a cop. Let me in. Charges in. Then he goes through other 2 sets of security before they call the Nassau cops. And he eventually gets to his mother. Okay, and I don't fault him. I want to be with my mother. God bless her soul if she was still alive, and I'd want to go, but I don't break the rules. The rules say she's in a contaminated unit, she's in an isolation unit, you contaminate other people, you go by the rules of the hospital. He charged in, and he kept on saying he's on as a cop, leave him alone, okay to see his mother. And when the cops finally came, he left. They dedicated 3 pages of report called Insubordination, Abuse of Authority, Can't Follow the Rules, No Professionalism, Failure to Notify a Supervisor, Not Knowing How to Talk to People. You and I may disagree professionally. We don't kill each other. If you were there with Schlesinger, I could just imagine the way the Attorney General was playing it on his vest and the hospital videos, that he was just going to kill you if he couldn't see his mother. And this is what is
Right,
being used against me for
right.
violating supervised visitation.
And he put his hand on his gun while in the hospital. Uh,
Isn't that amazing?
those poor nurses.
Oh, and Nassau County said they don't want to press charges. Oh, there was no arrest. What? No charges? The hospital has its own rules. I don't even know if they allow guns. You know, and so did that force the hand of the police chief to make this? Now again, that was one of five.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one. You'll like this one. Schlesinger gets called out. Okay, on a hit and run, right? Hit and run. Okay, what's it all about? He traced the car. There's one car with a damaged bumper in front of another. The occupant's nowhere to be found. He traced the car to a house, and he shows up at the house a couple hours later. And a black man comes out, and Officer Schlesinger says, did you leave the scene of a crime? You can't leave a scene of a crime if you hit someone, and you got to stay by the car, wait till the officer comes, and then give a report. If you have to see a crime, you get arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy goes to Schlesinger. He says, "Hey, brother, this is my dad. He was having a heart attack, symptoms, and we went to the hospital. Here's the receipt. We just got back like 15 minutes ago. I seriously thought my dad was going to have a heart attack. And brother, I apologize. Please apologize to the other people. I'll definitely take care of whatever damages were to the car and stuff. But I couldn't stay there. My father is disabled and ill."
Mm-hmm.
And then Schlesinger looks at him and says, "Will you step outside the house?" And the guy goes, "Hey, brother, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to establish a rapport." And Schlesinger says, "I'm not your brother." And the gentleman goes, "You don't like the title? I'm calling you brother. It's just a friendly name." He says,
Mm-hmm.
"No, I actually find it quite insulting. Would you like it if I called your younger person over there brother? It's quite insulting. You shouldn't call cops brothers." What are you talking about? Maryann, I don't care what people call me. Call me. Who cares? You're fighting with a disabled son who took the father to the hospital because he calls you brother? You know, some people say boss. Some people say, tourist. Some people say friend. He's getting offended? Take away the badge and the gun. Oh, my God. What if you would have called Schlesinger a four-letter word, man? Does that mean you and I have two bullets in our chest?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right. There's a lot of people that aren't fit for law enforcement. Like they're antisocial. I don't know. The cops that I have had dealings with, thankfully, were very kind. But there was one that was kind of weird. Um, for instance, like my son did not want to go back for his, have to go back to live with his dad because for the week for school, right? And I was telling the oldest, I said, "You've got to get in the car." And he wouldn't. So I called the state police. I said, "What do I do?" He won't get in the car. He outweighs me. In fact, he was just carrying me around the room for fun. Okay. So the cop said, really snotty, "Well, you carried him at one point. Just carry him and put him in the car."
Wow.
And he was laughing. I said, "Okay, thanks. Bye." I'm like, eventually he got in the car and I drove him back because, well, these judges, they don't care about contempt anyway. So I don't know. They
It
don't
is
follow
amazing.
through. Yeah, go ahead.
Most cops and police are good people and have earned the badge and they treat it community respect. Um, they're bad cops. So in this case with Schlesinger, the first thing we did was we went to the DA, who only had 4 days left in the term, DA Roca, who was progressive and used to work for Preet Bharara, someone I have a lot of respect for in the U.S. DOJ's office, and said drop the charges and investigate every single one of Schlesinger's convictions for 17 and a half years. I said because on top of everything else, Schlesinger's pension is only half of what it would be. If he would have served another 2.5 years, he would get 193,000. Now he only gets half that. So he hates me, and the Attorney General report is probably because I sued him. But the point is, they referenced how his thought process and how his criteria for arresting people did not go along with the police handbook. And in preparation for a meeting, I read the transcript of Officer Schlesinger's federal deposition, and my attorney asked him, why did you arrest Mr. Fishman if you just told me 4 times and go on the property of the protected person? So I'm going to ask you again, was there any distance to stay away from the protected person's property during supervised visitation on the order of protection you arrested Fishman for? No. There was no distance to stay away. You're totally sure? He says, I've rechecked. Okay. And I'm going to ask you again, did Marc Fishman go on the property? Did he go on the curb, the sidewalk, the fence, the lawn, the house? Was there any allegation he went on the property? No. He was 2 to 4 houses away. So why did you arrest him? Well, his intent, and I tell you his intent. Do you see the word intent on the order of protection? You're saying intent. Could you elaborate, officer? Yeah, his intent was to go on the property. He said, "You've seen Mr. Fisher? Yeah, he's like over 250 pounds. Yeah. How tall are you? How big are you?" I'm under 200 pounds. The cop says, and my attorney says, I'm 150. Would you say that Miss Solomon weighs 100 pounds less than Mr. Fishman, the ex-wife? Yeah. Would you say the supervisors, 2 females, weren't bigger than Mr. 250? Yeah. So wouldn't you argue, officer, that Mr. Fishman wanted to go on the property? He would have, because he's bigger than all those 5 people combined? Well, that isn't necessary. Okay, it's like he didn't intend to go on the property, officer, did he? The attorney for Schlesinger, don't answer that. He's okay. You already have. Did he go on the property? No. Did he go on the border of the property? No. Was the allegation on the property? No. So why did you charge him for going on the property? Why did you misdemeanor say complaint says he goes to the property, on the property? Well, because he was near the property, it's the same thing as his violating an order of protection. Oh, really? Oh, my God, Maryann. Then I guess we're going to have a lot of convictions to reverse, because last I checked, on February 20th, 2020, the Appellate Division, 2nd Department in Brooklyn, which doesn't like me, ruled that Mr. Fishman's order of protection is reaffirmed, and he is to stay away from the ex-wife, her property, the kids, their home, a workplace, except EXCPT, except limited supervised visitation. Mr. Schlesinger, who's Ann Elliott? Well, she's the supervisor. Did she go on the property? Yeah, she went on the property. She went on the property 10 after 10 a.m. on the 15th of December, right? When was Mr. Fishman's last visit? Well, he claims it was December 1. When did Ann Elliott say it was? It was December 1. And his visits are every 2 weeks, right? And if they're canceled, they're the following week. Was there any proof that the visit was canceled? No, but Ms. Solomon said it was. But the supervisor told you that it was confirmed. Yes. So why did you arrest Mr. Fishman for violating order of protection for not going on a property during supervised visitation, where the Appellate Division certified that he's allowed to be near the property during supervised visitation? And he said, well, because, he shouldn't have been in the city of New Rochelle. Oh, now we're talking. I shouldn't be in the city, Maryann, because I'm a third-rate disabled person with a TBI. I can't be in a city with 15,000 people, the home of my PT, my neurosurgeon, my vet, my kids. Oh, really? So basic. Now, what line of the order of protection says that, Maryann? Oh, I can't show it to you. But he should not have been in the city of New Rochelle. He shouldn't have been here. What is it all about, Maryann?
Yeah, they make up the law as they go along.
What's the point?
They make up the law as they go along, and they steer it into the false narrative where they want it to go.
You said it. And so in my case, we went back to the DA and the new DA, and we said, you got to have your conviction integrity unit review every conviction of Lane Schlesinger, New Rochelle. He's going to cop to 17 years and 6 months because his version of the law isn't the law. And not only did he lie on my misdemeanor complaint where he said I went to and onto the house, but then where it said our video's available, he left it blank on the arrest form. And then when he was asked, is the supervisor present? He wrote unknown. But on the videos and audio that he withheld, that he refused to disclose, the mandatory disclosure, which is a misdemeanor in New York, he said that she's the supervisor, Ann Elliott. And she was at the precinct with me. And then in the narrative, he says, I went to the house, and my attorney says, you're making it seem like Mr. Fishman drove to the house. Did Mr. Fishman drive that day? No. Who drove? Well, his disability aid. Uh-huh. Is Mr. Fishman allowed to drive the kids during supervised visitation? No. So wouldn't you say Mr. Fishman was trying to comply with the visitation order? You know, well, he was directing people. He was directing people. The supervisor in disability in the front seat, Mr. Fishman's on the phone, okay, working in the back, and he's directing people on how to do a visit that the supervisor goes out for. He says, Mr. Schlesinger, how many pages was this visitation order? He said 28 pages. Have you ever seen a visitation order? 20 pages? No, I've never seen it. Did you read the whole thing? No. So you just arrested Mr. Fishman for not violating order of protection, for not going on a property during supervised visits, because he went to the police to make a report of a visitation violation, and you separated him from his aide and just arrested him because you think he shouldn't be in the city of New Rochelle. Uh-huh. Sounds like retaliation against me.
There's a lot of retaliation. People don't realize in family court and with your situation, if you buck, they're going to retaliate. I reported the judge to the AOPC because he was in collusion with the opposing attorney, and didn't matter. They got even with me anyway.
So
It's
sorry you had to go through that.
it's very scary. People don't realize.
You said it. I'm on the West Coast, battling in federal court. Now I have the what I hope is the support of the area politicians, because in the ethics code they say government elected officials cannot get involved in individual legal case. Oh, Maryann, now we have pattern, PATTER, pattern misconduct. Oh, by the Attorney General. Oh, that isn't just Marc Fishman. At least Marc Fishman sued the guy and got the video and has the evidence to prove he's innocent. Whether judges want to allow it to happen or not, it eventually will happen, Maryann. I might have a lot more gray hairs, but eventually it will happen. I will be cleared. I promise you, my friend. Okay. What about Joe in the paraplegic chair that was, had his service dog beat up by Lane Schlesinger, and New Rochelle gives him a medal? I finally got the arrest report. It actually shows that Lane Schlesinger went to hit the service dog and hit the dog and the mother. And then he yelled at the mother for blocking him from hitting the dog. And then he was asked, why are you hitting the dog? Did the dog threaten you? Did the dog jump on you? Did the dog bite you? The dog was being loud. Oh, my God, Maryann. If my service dog was there, my dog would be so loud, you and I wouldn't even be hearing his dog. He was loud. He was loud. Well, gee whiz, some of our service dogs are trained to bark loudly when there is a threat. And Lane Schlesinger is not friend. He is threat. Foe. Maryann, the barking bothered him. It bothered him to be called brother. It bothered him that he had to be John Wayne to go in the house. Maryann, we're going to see that person no matter what. Let's go in. Come on, guns on. Take out that whip. Let's get that gun. Let's get in there and do it. And you're judging me for trying to see my disabled kid a supervised visitation with a 28-page order?
Oh, Mark, I would hate to see this cop around a small child. That's scary.
It's true. It's true. The Attorney General in the report cited lack of controls. They said that there were over 25 misconduct complaints since he became a cop in 2006. They said most of them were unreported. Hello, what about me and the one with the service dog? Or better yet, what about the one at Ward Acres? So we have a beautiful place called Ward Acres, like your Pennsylvania. It's 16 acres of beautiful dog run and vegetable community gardens. And a lot of us used to go there and bring our dogs and service dogs to run and graze and feed and socialize. And Lane Schlesinger one day was doing patrol. Maryann, it's a very important job. We got to patrol the dog run park near the vegetable garden. So important. He's asking everyone for their license. Last I checked, service dogs don't need a license. In the Ninth Circuit, there's not even paperwork on a service dog. Service dog service you. So he goes to one mother, and she's offended. And she said, I'm out here enjoying my family, and here's my service dog, and he's not barking at one. Ma'am, I asked for your papers. What is this, Poland? Is this the Gestapo?
Yeah.
Is this like your papers, Nazi drink? Your papers? What? What papers? I want the license for the dog. License? Well, it's in my car. Well, you better go get it because I'm going to write you a ticket. What? Write you a ticket? Man, he's in a service dog in a dog run in a park. a mother and kids a ticket. Oh, it must be a slow day in New Rochelle. And he's allowed to carry a badge. So what it did say was the Attorney General thanked Chief Gazzola for putting Schlesinger on desk duty, that he doesn't know how to talk to other people, and that he should be kept away from other people because they can be harmed.
No.
And he does not know how to be respectful and courteous. And please, in the future, you should specify every complaint he did, not just aggregate them. And you should specifically delineate what the consequences are complaints, because quite frankly, this guy's got more than 25. And wait a second, we had mandatory disclosure in the criminal trial and in the federal case of discrimination. How many disciplinary reports did we get from New Rochelle? None. How many did we get from the DA? None. Does anyone think any judge, even the ones that hate me, Maryann, even the ones that hate you, is going to sign a misdemeanor information complaint from Schlesinger with 25 pattern misconduct complaints as credibility to take someone to trial? Even these judges, I would say, would have difference and say, I'm not stepping in that quicksand. What do you think, Maryann?
Yeah. Well, they don't want to get their hands dirty, and they all play in the same sandbox.
How many of their other convictions are threatened? How many people aren't challenging it? How many other people went to jail because Lane Schlesinger?
Right. How many false arrests?
How many false arrests? How many fines? How many wasted assigned counsel fees? How many harassment?
Right. People need to speak out when these things happen.
They do. In my case, we're asking people to contact DA Scacace, Scacace at westchester.da.net, and ask her to drop all charges for me and others for Lane Schlesinger, and to investigate all of his arrests. So far, she has resisted. She says she doesn't even have a conviction integrity unit set up because all the previous staff left. That's no excuse. We're told that DA Rocha got this report in August and September, Maryann. What did she do? Nothing. Wasn't disclosed to us. The DA swears they didn't get any video. Under New York law, the DA is supposed to check if there's any police video. But now you have pattern misconduct of Schlesinger, 17-year cop, and you don't have someone reversing all of his convictions. As a matter of fact, Maryann, let me add New York City, because what I'm amazed with is we have Letitia James, who has no problem going after Donald Trump, okay, because she thinks that he undervalues his property and doesn't pay enough real estate taxes. Those taxes are based on opinions. Text her attorney. The property's worth $1 million, property's worth $2 million. They said his Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. Last I heard it was worth a couple billion. I'm not an appraiser, but $18 million sounds kind of low. So Letitia James has no problem with Trump and Mar-a-Lago, which is not New York. Okay, but why isn't she going after 16 cops, including Lane Schlesinger, to reverse their false convictions and review every one of their convictions that she has labeled pattern abusing misconduct? Ooh. What is the next step? What are you doing, Attorney General? If you look on her website, you have to find it. It's a 21-page report. If you Google Lane Schlesinger, Attorney General Letitia James, you'll see the 11-page report, which comes on. If you click on the 21-page report, page 10 with the circle, and look on the spreadsheet, his name. And if you go down everyone's names, it either says pattern misconduct or no pattern misconduct. So, Maryann, this was a very thorough investigation, 406 cops. If a cop had 3, 4, or 2 sustained misconduct, they were not patterned. You had to have 5. In Schlesinger's case, I think it was more than 30. And some of these other ones, these were dirty, dirty cops. And what are you doing now? What's transparency? Why aren't you on TV talking about it? But you want to tell us that you're going after, I don't know, Netscape to get a $1 refund for people, or that you're concerned that Donald Trump gets away with paying a hooker because he's not a faithful marital partner. Who cares? Why don't you go after the 16 pattern abusing misconduct cops who have cost us our kids? The one thing I can say to my kids, I don't know if you're listening today, kids, I love you very much, and Daddy will fight for you every day. But listen, Lane Schlesinger is the reason you don't have a dad. Lane Schlesinger is the reason your dad was falsely convicted. Lane Schlesinger carrying a gun is the reason a lot of people terrorized New Rochelle. And Lane Schlesinger's supervisors not doing anything and hiding his misconduct for years, okay, hurt the public. They kept us less safe. And if you have a problem, kids, I tell you this, call your mom, your daddy, or call a trusted friend, or call a lawyer. Don't call a cop, because you might get Lane Schlesinger, and then you're in devil's hell for life.
Yeah, that's that- that's a fact.
In the audio that came out, Lane Schlesinger asked my wife on the radio call on the day of December 15, 18, the false arrest. The radio call where I'm going to the police station to make the report that I want a police report that my ex is not giving me visitation for my second and only second time a month. So all I have is 2 times, first Saturday and second Saturday. That's it. Every other Saturday. She's not giving me my second visit. Lane Schlesinger asked her 3 times. Miss Solomon is her maiden name. Miss Solomon, did Mr. Fishman go on the property? No. Did he threaten you? No. Did he send you a nasty message? No. Did he communicate in any way? No. I want to ask this again. Did he go on your property? No. He was 4 houses away. So why am I arrested? Why am I arrested? And now you say to yourself, the law of Lane Schlesinger, okay, I was with a disability aide named Isabel Bolivar, who's got 2 master's degrees, and I was with a supervisor, Ann Elliott, who also has 2 master's degrees. If I committed the crime of going on the property, which you know I didn't, why didn't you arrest them for aiding and assisting me? Oh, well, we can't do that. Well, what are you talking about? You're just saying you're arresting me? Did they aid the crime? Well, well, there really wasn't a crime? Of course there wasn't a crime. But you have to retaliate because I sue the judges in federal court to get a communication accommodation because I have an aide, because I have 2 witnesses. But if a judge in New York wants you guilty, he's going to tell the jury, make you guilty, and give them jury instructions, and there's no due process, no one cares, and the judges have remained very silent regarding Lane Schlesinger. Written to several of them, how are you going to do this? Why don't you investigate them? What are you doing? No responses, nothing. No response. Well, maybe my case will finally move out of Westchester where you can get fair and partial. Because if the district attorney, Scacace, does not vacate the conviction and doesn't vacate everyone's conviction with Schlesinger, okay, and review them, and I guarantee you the governor can remove her. And since Judge Scacace, I say Judge Scacace because she was a judge for 22 years in Westchester. She is the longest elected judge. I don't expect the longest elected judge who's friends with the 8 judges I had served by the U.S. Marshals, okay, in my federal lawsuit, to rule in my favor. I don't expect to give me due process. So why don't we just take my case out of Westchester? DA Scacace, please recuse. Move me out of Westchester. You can't be fair. Okay? And for everyone else, will you send someone independent, point like an independent inspector general, to review every single one of Lane Schlesinger's cases? And New York City, Commissioner Tisch, review all the 11 cops' convictions that have pattern misconduct. What I say to DA Scacace is this, Maryann, at least it was only 1 cop. New Rochelle's got 1.1, Westchester has 1.1 million people. At least it's only 1 cop. Imagine if you had to investigate 20. Oh, no, we can't investigate them because you're a convict. You should go to jail first. Go to jail for what? For speaking out about Lane Schlesinger? For suing him in federal court to get the cameras to exonerate me? Or because of my lawsuit forcing the police chief to report the guy to the attorney general? But keep in mind, this ultimately reflects on the police chief, Maryann. You had a loose cannon, and it took you how many years to report him? Why should you be the police chief? Listen, if I'm a teacher, my ex-kindergarten teacher, now principal, if I have a kid who's misbehaving, I take the kid on the side, I talk to the kid, and I call a principal, I call a special ed teacher, I call a psychologist, I call the parent. I don't sit there for 17 years, Maryann, and say, oh, let's let the kindergartner mess everyone up. Oh, let's let Lane Schlesinger terrorize everyone in New Rochelle, especially disabled parents. And that's why I say the pattern is, Maryann. They said pattern abuse, pattern misconduct. Those of us who read the report, there's 8 instances of him with disabled people. That's pattern disability discrimination. He hates disabled people. My God, and you're the Attorney General, you can't even say it. He hates disabled people. Look at how he treats us. What other cop goes to a dog run to give a ticket to someone for not having a license for a service dog? Who does this?
Unbelievable. How I could talk to you all afternoon.
Anytime, my friend, because you and I are making change, and so are your other guests. When people say, why just sue in federal court? What I can tell you is, You know what? Somehow it caused the 3-year investigation of Lane Schlesinger by the Attorney General, who did a thorough investigation. The other thing I'd say, Maryann, is why did it take almost 3 years to do investigation? Why don't we get the real truth that New Rochelle withheld all the investigative materials from you, so it took longer? Because, Maryann, it doesn't take 3 years to investigate 5 instances. This isn't rocket science. Last I checked, Boeing could build a plane in like 6 months, right?
Mhm. Well, my mother always said the wheels of justice are slow, but this is ridiculous. Seriously.
I'll quote what he said in federal deposition. I arrested Mr. Fishman because I felt it was a crime that he was near the house during his visitation day. Why do we have a 28-page visitation order? Why do we have carve-out visitation? Why do we have supervisors picking up kids? Why do we have disability drivers? All I was doing was trying to facilitate a visit with my autistic son, who didn't want to be driven to the city that day, who wanted to go out to breakfast and then wanted to go to a special needs gym class afterwards. Mm-hmm. That's all I was doing. It was coordinated by disability aid and my supervisor with my ex, backed up by an agreement. What happened? Oh, I didn't tell you. A month before, the supervisor wrote a letter to the court saying, I don't need supervision anymore. Oh my God, federal offense. Okay, now we got to make up crimes. Every time I ex didn't like a supervisor, let's make up a violation. Let's make up a crime.
And that's a pattern too. Yeah, that's
Sure.
a pattern with a lot of these personality disorders is, the good parent, the good fit parent will pick a supervisor, and the personality disorder will just shoot it down every time. Every time. And then there's time wasted. Time was wasted. Even, I'm so sorry that happened to you with this policeman Lane. He wasted time that was precious to you to see your child. And that's child psychological abuse.
You said it. It's also a crime, Maryann. If
Sure.
you swear and fill out a false government document and record it in the government system, last I checked, it's misdemeanors and felonies in New York. He filled out a form where it asked very clearly, was the supervisor present? Let me tell you again, in Westchester County. In Westchester County, supervised visitation is considered a form of probation. They actually have it funded and listed on the probation site like criminals that rob cars or rape people or kill people. It's probation. They define the probation officer and supervised visitation as a supervisor. Every cop is trained, Maryann, to know that if they are a court-ordered supervisor, and they have the agreement there, and they are designated by a judge as the court-ordered supervisor, that is a court probation officer present. So if you are, quote-unquote, on probation, because, again, they like to label us, probation to see your kid, what a travesty, right? How could I commit a violation unless the probation officer said I committed a violation? The probation officer testified in federal court there was no crime. This was a visit. It wasn't canceled. So wait a second. If Lane Schlesinger would have filled out, yes, supervised present, he couldn't do an arrest. Oh, we have to fill out unknown, Maryann. Oh, unknown. Was she the popcorn salesman? Maryann, you know what? Maybe she was the Girl Scout leader. Maybe we were going to buy Maple Leaf cookies. You know what? Maybe she was going to sell me a movie ticket. What was she? Why did I give her $500 that day? Why did I pick her up? Absurd. Unknown? Unknown? You lied, Schlesinger. What about cameras? Are there any camera footage, audio footage? Blank. Okay. Describe how Miss Solomon, the ex-wife, feels. Is she fearful? No. Is she scared? No. Is she terrorized? No. Okay, other. Describe. Frustrated. Very frustrated. See narrative below. Get a therapist. Get a therapist. You're frustrated. Yes, you're frustrated that I breathe.
You've been through so much.
But we've exposed him, Maryann.
Yeah.
How many other people did Schlesinger do this to? How many people can now hold him accountable? How many people can we get reform for?
They need to come forward.
Now New Rochelle has a website. On the front page of the website, if you've been discriminated against, click here. Here's the civil rights agencies. Now there's a mental health van to go out for mental health visits. If someone's having a seizure or if someone is having an episode, now they have a mental health van. And now they have their insurance company requiring their officers to be trained in accommodations. Wasn't done before my federal lawsuit. But let's hide everything about Lane Schlesinger. He'll never find it because his lawsuit will get dismissed. Oh, what happens if it doesn't get dismissed?
Hmm.
Oh, you have to provide discovery. Oh, you're going to lie to a federal judge. Oh, you lied to a federal judge for 4 years? Oh, my God. Last I checked, that was a crime. Oh,
Hmm.
federal crime. Oh, 6 months in jail? Martha Stewart lied to some investigators. Jail time. Remember Bannon? He lied to somebody or didn't show up for congressional time. He goes to jail. Who's going to jail? It ain't me. Who's going to jail for covering up for Schlesinger? Why are you covering up for a cop that's a disability discriminating bigot? Okay?
Hmm.
A lot of people did this to disabled women. What, you think women can't complain? I know some women with bigger mouths than 10 times me. You think disabled women can't complain? Shame on you, New Rochelle, for allowing to carry a badge. Shame on you for allowing to carry a gun. Shame on you for not publicizing him to make the public aware and to come forward to hold him accountable. Shame on you, New Rochelle, for allowing him to have his $90,000 pension.
Hmm.
He should pay the pension back, and he should have to serve jail time. How many other cases did he lie about testimony? How many other cases did he refuse to sign disclosure form of evidence? How many other cases did he withhold evidence? How many other cases did he say there's no camera video? In my case, he made himself invisible so that people couldn't serve him. He was deemed served from a federal judge. We were lucky. We served his mother, his sister, his police precinct. We served the secretary. We served his boss. Why was he avoiding service? Because he had a lot to hide, Maryann. Now we know, the top tip of the service. He hates disabled people, and he arrests people for not committing a crime. You know? And what? They gave him a medal, by the way, after he hit the service dog. Isn't that amazing? They gave him a medal? The baton to service, a medal?
That poor dog.
What did the service dog do to you? He barked. Yeah, but he was sitting next to the kid in the wheelchair with muscular dystrophy, and he's barking at you? Wow. Did you feel threatened? No, but I had to protect the people. Protect what people? If
Oh
you
my
would have just
God.
left, he would have stopped barking.
It doesn't end with that guy.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
But in my case, you had to make sure I didn't have my disability aid, so she couldn't corroborate my story. You had to make sure I didn't have my reading glasses by taking away my medical bag. You had to make sure I did have a headache with your bright lights in the question room because I didn't have my stimulator remote to increase the therapy to my head.
Hmm.
Okay, and then you falsify this whole thing. And it's a sad day in America. We need that parent rights bill from the Senate. We need someone like Trump to come in and enforce the constitutional rights.
Hmm.
We need people to speak up. We need more people to sue in federal court when they have a legitimate complaint, and don't accept it. And don't accept the label. The label in my cases, Fishman family, including disabled father and disabled kids, victimized by New Rochelle Police Department and Westchester District Attorney who protected pattern misconduct, disability discrimination, abusing terminated cop Lane Schlesinger. That's the story.
Hmm.
And I guarantee you one thing, I'm going to help a bunch of other people, okay, get their convictions reversed from Lane Schlesinger. Because I got to tell you, how come some of us like you and me work so hard to try and abide by the rules, so hard to try and confirm with these difficult agreements, impossible, or ridiculous amounts of money or valuations. But people like Lane Schlesinger play John Wayne and storm the hospital because he wants to see his mother. I know a lot of people that want to see their mother during COVID or in the
Yeah.
hospital, but they exercise restraint or they ask the right way. You
Right.
know,
Or
if
follow the rules.
if Schlesinger would have came to me, I would have said, why don't you tell him you're her disability aid? Oh, and maybe, we could have described how maybe you could have asked for an accommodation. But instead, you got to play John Wayne, and you think you get away with it because you got Fishman convicted, and you arrest the person who blocked you with the service dog when you hit the baton with the kid. Oh, and you gave a ticket to the one with the service dog in the park, or you started up with the son who took his father to the hospital with chest pain, instead of being empathetic and kind, saying, "Is your father okay? Is he okay? I hope he's okay." And we can resolve the petty bumper afterwards. No, you got to threaten to arrest him. Well, come on, Maryann. This is ridiculous. This isn't policing. This isn't community policing.
Right.
This guy's got anger issues. He's got PTSD. He's an Iraq, Afghanistan vet. And as far as I'm concerned, should be in 24-hour therapy rehab. But you carry a gun in civilian area.
Hmm.
Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
This is very scary. Very. What a shame.
Now, without the federal lawsuit, Maryann, that you and I discussed, like
Uh,
why Mitch Fishman, 6 years? Why are you so intent on going forward? It's costing your kids. You can't see them. Why are you doing it? Maryann, if I don't expose them, then I'm complicit in preventing other parents from seeing their kids. You're a great mom. Okay. My friend Roman, who's being denied access, his kid, great dad. So many people are great parents here.
mhm.
I'm not going to be complicit in some disability discriminating cop who thinks he's going to take me down. God wanted me dead, I'd be dead. I have 8 implants, 2 neurostimulators, a metal hip, wires in my head. God said I can live. I got a mouth, I got a mirror, and I got a pen. I got to use it. And if Officer Schlesinger doesn't like it, well, maybe he should have not become a cop. And maybe he shouldn't have discriminated against all of us. Because the truth's going to come out. And the people that would held it are going to be held accountable. And who are they to judge us when they protected him?
Right, right. The truth always comes out. And I'd like to have you back. If anyone wants to reach you, how can they reach you?
Well, you asked me this last time, and I'm always unprepared.
Oh, well,
But
do you want me to put your you gave me
I gave you the email
rent
address last time.
rentdriver at gmail
Rentdriver
dot.
at Gmail is probably the easiest way to email me. I don't look for publicity. I just want fairness. I just want my kids back to live in peace. But if anyone wants to email me, rentdriver at gmail.com. Obviously, I'm on social media, on Facebook. Feel free to message. Always want to hear everyone's stories. Always want to help. And quite frankly, as you and I aware, I don't know if I'll be allowed to see my kids. The youngest one is 6.5 until they're 18. And I don't know when I'll see them, but I promise you this: I am going to hold Schlesinger and New Rochelle cops and Westchester DA accountable for
Mhm.
what they've done here, to not only make sure it doesn't happen to other parents, but to free the label of a bad parent or an alien parent or domestic violence parent. Domestic violence. What I do? I
Mhm.
went for a visit to my kid for my second Saturday a month.
Mm.
Someone has to keep the torch and light the fire and lead the charge. I didn't ask for the job, but I didn't ask to be thrown in jail either, and I certainly didn't ask to be labeled while I'm struggling, particularly in 2018. Maryann, in 2018, I was in 5 rehabs. I was
Mm.
in traumatic brain injury rehab for memory, cognitive, 22 hours a week. I was in speech rehab for 6 hours a week. I was in traumatic brain injury breathing exercises 4 hours a week because I couldn't breathe out of
Wow.
my nose. Every time I breathe out of my nose, I get a headache, and then I have to go to
Oh,
the hospital. I get a migraine, and then I have to put injections in my head. So, I mean,
oh.
I had no time for this nonsense. You see my kids 2 Saturdays a month. Leave me alone.
Right,
No, you
right.
can't leave me alone because I sued judges because they wouldn't give me real time transcription or a note taker or a tape recorder in court, so I can't hear or remember. Oh, they blocked my. I sue judges. No, someone's got to sue the judges. Someone's got to sue the administration, and they got to clean up the disability discrimination. And
Yes.
if we don't broadcast Lane Schlesinger and make him be the, the devil of the year, then
Mhm.
we are not doing our job, you and me, Maryann, to prevent this from happening from tens of thousands of parents every month.
I agree. I agree. Hey, don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you so much, Marc Fishman, for all your valuable information. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Maryann, and keep up the advocacy. You're making a difference. We're preventing a lot of parents from losing their kids and preventing a lot of parents from being suckered into the system and the trap of supervised visitation. We are making a difference. It is painful. It hurts. We are making a difference. Keep the faith and keep the advocacy.
Definitely.